Peter, Peter Manning, if you haven't done it already, can you give Terence and David a quick call? Because you're quite right. If they don't, we've got a short agenda tonight. If they don't join us soon, they'll miss it.
I think David Andrews has just joined, actually.
Oh, good. Excellent.
But I will ring Terence Beckett now.
Yeah. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. So we'll start the meeting. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, members of the committee and those in attendance this evening. And most particularly, good evening to any members of the public who are watching us. We appreciate this is an important committee, and we really do appreciate the interest that you show in taking the trouble to watch us through YouTube. As a immediate preliminary to the meeting, just to set the context for this meeting taking place virtually, I'm just going to read the following notice. The local authorities and police and crime panels, coronavirus, flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales, Regulations 2020, came into force on Saturday, 4th April 2020, to enable councils to hold remote committee meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic period. This was to ensure local authorities could conduct business during this current public health emergency. This meeting of the Development Management Committee is being held remotely under these regulations via the Zoom application and is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. What I'll now do is introduce, again, particularly to the members of the public watching, those who are present tonight. Broadly speaking, there are three types of person involved in the meeting. There are a number of councillors who are members of the committee. It is only those councillors who are entitled to vote on planning applications. There is a further councillor in attendance who's, in fact, I'll ask her to introduce herself now. That's Councillor Jan Goody. If you could give people a wave, Jan, thank you. Jan is the portfolio holder for the area that includes the planning and the work of this committee. And otherwise, we've got a number of officers who do extremely good work supporting this committee. I'm going to start by working through the committee, and I'll just invite everybody to just wave at the camera when I call their name. So I'm the chairman of the committee, and I'm Bob Deering. David Andrews.
Yes, good evening, Bob. Good evening, members. My name's David Andrews. I'm the ward member for Thunderidge and Standon. You can't see me this evening, unfortunately, because my camera's not doing what I would wish it to do, but a very good evening to you all.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Is Terence Beckett with us, Peter Mannings?
I tried to call him and he was trying to join, but he's having some technical problem. But he is trying.
Okay, well, we'll come back to him. Ruth Buckmaster. Hello, Ruth. Thank you very much. Councillor Ben Crystal. Well done, Ben. Thank you. Ian Devonshire. Yeah, against a bright blue background. Hand keeps disappearing. Thank you very much, Ian. Jonathan Kay. Oh, very good, Jonathan. Thank you. Very, very, very trendy. Ian Kemp. Thank you, Ian. Just so people know, Ian's had severe IT problems today, but has fought through them to be with us. We appreciate that a lot, Ian. Thank you very much. Tim Page. Thank you, Tim. Carolyn Redfern. Carolyn, thank you. Peter Ruffles. Very, very, very statesman-like Peter. Thank you. And Tony Stowe, who's the vice chairman of this committee. Thank you, Tony, very much. Now, just taking them as they appear on my screen, I'm going to just ask the officers to make themselves known. So we have Peter Mannings. Peter's with Democratic Services. Thank you, Peter. David Snell. David is a senior planning officer. Jill Shingler. Jill Shingler is a senior planning officer. I'll come back to you in a minute, Victoria. Sarah Saunders. Sarah's our head of planning. And then I think the remaining officer is Victoria Wilders, who's our legal officer. Thank you very much, Victoria. Okay.
Chairman, Terence Beckett is now with us.
Terence Beckett's just joined. Terence, just give people a wave. Thank you. Terence is a councillor and a member of the committee, a voting member of the committee. So hopefully we've introduced ourselves to you all now. Turning to the agenda, item 1, apologies for absence. We have one apology, which is Councillor Fernando can't be with us this evening, and he's being replaced this evening by Councillor Devonshire. Thank you very much, Ian, for that. Chairman's announcements. I've no chairman's announcements, but I will just look sideways at Sarah to see if there's anything she'd like to communicate. No, thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
Don't think so.
No, nothing happening there. No declarations. Item 4, the minutes. These appear at pages 7 to 28 of the pack. If anybody has any comments, otherwise I'll look for a proposer, please. Beckett and Councillor Buckmaster is seconding. Thank you. Take a vote. All those in favour, show your hands.
That's fine, thank you.
I can't show you my hand, Chairman, but I am in favour.
Thank you,
David Andrews here.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And that, in that case, brings us on to the main item of this evening's business, is item 5A on the agenda, which is the following planning application. So that we are about to deal with planning application 3/20/1814/FUL, which is for the demolition of existing extension to leisure centre and construction of new 2-storey extension incorporating exercise studios, gym, soft play area and cafe with associated landscaping, rearrangement of car park area, cycle parking and ancillary external plant. Provision of 120 square metre temporary studio, all at Hartham Leisure Centre, Hartham Lane. And the papers for this item begin at page 33 of the pack. I'm going to call upon Officer Jill Shingler, please, to present this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Before looking at the plans, which we're going to do in a minute, I'd just like to draw your attention to the late representations sheet that is available on the website, or you should have received one way or another. Firstly, on that sheet, there's I need to report that there's an error in the report, and the further condition to require the removal of the temporary studio building once the new extension is in use should be included in the recommendation. Secondly, we've received further comments from the lead local flood authority reiterating that they've got no objection, but suggesting an alternative wording to condition 16 on your agenda. And I therefore ask that this alternate wording is included in the recommendation. And thirdly, we have received formal comments now from the Conservation and Urban Design team, who generally praise the quality of the design of the proposal and confirm that they've got no objection, subject to conditions. So if you could take that into account when reading the report. So if we could share the screen now, so that I can show the plans. Thank you. So the first plan is just the location plan showing the location of Hartham Leisure Centre on the edge of Hartham Common and between the River Bean and the River Lee. The site there is outlined in red. The site's in the green belt and in a green finger and in flood zone 2. It's also within the Hertford Conservation Area. It's located close to the town centre and has good accessibility by foot and by cycle and by public transport, and there are public car parks to the immediate south and west, in addition to the existing 93 space car park at the centre itself. If I could have the next slide, please. This is the block plan for the site, which shows the leisure centre, which consists of predominantly swimming pool building, which was originally open air and was roofed over some years ago. There's also a later extension that provides a reception area and studio space and gym facilities, but this is fairly limited in size. The proposal is to demolish that later extension and replace it with a larger two-storey addition to provide an enlarged gym and studio space capacity, plus a cafe and soft play area. So this plan shows the blue element is the existing building minus the extension that exists at the moment, and it shows the proposed addition in yellow. So you can see the scale of the addition within the green belt. Next slide, please. This shows the proposed elevations of the building, and you can see the main building with its corrugated green roof, and the proposed two-storey addition from all elevations. The south-west elevation, I think, is particularly important to note, in that you get the shape of the proposed extension with its curved sloping roof, and you can see that it largely hides the existing green corrugated metal building beyond. Next slide, please. So this was a comparison drawing, really just to show the scale of the proposed extension in relation to the existing extension. So the top drawing is clearly showing the existing single-storey extension that is to be removed, and the lower drawing shows the proposed two-storey addition in relation to that. Next drawing, please. So this is the floor plans, the ground floor plan. So you can see the existing building with the pool area and the existing changing facilities there. There are some upgrading of facilities to take place, but that's not part of this application. They're internal works that don't require planning consent. So we're looking at the extension only, which again, you can see there the red elements are the new proposed studio spaces. The blue area is the soft play area, and the orange is the cafe area. Next, please. And this is the first floor, which shows the first floor is essentially predominantly a gym area, and there's a small void area above the soft play area. Next slide, please. So this is the rear elevation, just a bit larger, so you can see the concept there. It's north facing and virtually fully glazed, and looks out over the common and the trees to the north. This slide also shows the nature of the materials that are proposed for the building. Next, please. This plan illustrates the landscape concept for the development to show how it will be integrated into the common area and the park. It also shows the trees that are to be removed in order to enable the development. They're the red circled, red dashed lines show the trees that have to go. There are some obviously within the footprint of the building, And then there are 3 at the southern end of the site, which will need to go because the car park is being rearranged to get better coach parking and disabled parking facilities in the frontage there. The circular area of hard and soft landscaping that is shown will provide again a feature within the site, and it provides at the front, in front of the building, an area of seating in connection with the cafe use, and also there's a seating area at the back. It shows the position of the proposed living wall, which is a feature of the front elevation of the building. And it serves both to soften and integrate the building into its setting, and also reduce solar gain and cooling requirements. To the rear, a new footpath is proposed from the north-south footpath through the common to the cafe entrance, and a pergola is proposed between the trees to emphasise the entrance and link it better to the park. The slide also shows the changes proposed to the parking area and the intention to provide additional planting and trees in the small plaza area adjacent to the entrance to the building. Next slide, please. This slide shows the proposed temporary studio building, which is to be located within the car park to the east of the swimming pool building. And this is to provide continuity of provision of the studio space during construction, and is to be removed once the extension's in use. Next, please. The 3D images perhaps give a better impression of the extension and the external works and how it will integrate within the park. You can see that the roof of the extension slopes down to the south and is ideal for photovoltaics, which are proposed there. The western elevation includes 2 colours of timber effect cladding to break up the massing, and the curved roof to the south side with the living wall will provide a backdrop to the cafe seating area, and the area, the cafe seating area, is protected from the parking area by hard and soft landscaping. Next, please. Further 3D images just to show how it fits in within the area. And the right-hand side shows the scheme also includes the provision of air source heat pump and an additional substation, and these are to be located at the front of the site next to the existing brick-built plant room, and to tidy this area up and hide both the existing and the proposed substation. It's proposed that this area will be enclosed by a timber screening, and this is illustrated again on the right-hand side of your screen there. Additional cycle parking facilities are also proposed within the front of the site, and some covered spaces are also included. Next slide, please. Members will recall that the previous application for extension here was deferred from this committee. Whilst there was general support, I believe, for the improved facilities, there were concerns over the design of the proposed extension, both in terms of its visual impact on the area and with regard to its sustainability credentials. I've included this slide to remind you of the previous scheme and to show that the architects have clearly responded to the criticism and come up with a bold quality design and associated landscaping that sits well within the conservation area and the common and is befitting of a public facility. In addition, they've incorporated many elements to reduce the carbon footprint of the development and achieve a very high standard of sustainability, going well beyond current building regulations requirements. A 45% reduction from the introduction of, a 45% carbon reduction from the introduction of photovoltaics and air source heat pumps and other features. And it aims to meet BREEAM Excellent accreditation. Overall, it's considered that proposal will provide much needed facility to meet the needs of the growing population in a sustainable location, in a well-designed and highly sustainable building that will maintain and enhance the conservation area. There will inevitably be some limited impact on the openness of the green belt from the scale of the addition, but this is clearly outweighed by the very special circumstances that are fully explained in the officer's report. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions, including those that are set out in the late representations. Thank you, that's it. I'll pass back to the chairman and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. I think we now move on to public speakers. Unless Peter Mannings corrects me, we do not have a speaker against.
That's correct. It's just one in support.
Exactly. We just have one speaker in support, who is Mr. Martin Lindis, who is with us. That's excellent. Yes, I can still see you. You moved on my screen there for a moment, Mr. Lindis.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I suspect you know the rules, but I'll make them clear in any event. You have 3 minutes to speak. The 3 minutes will start from when you start to speak. If you should still be speaking at the 3 minute point, you will be cut off.
Understood.
Start when you're ready, then see how you go.
Okay, thank you very much. As you described, I'm here to talk in support of the application as the architect for it. The application that you're looking at now is a response to the deferred application for the extension of the existing building with a new dry side and also with a refurbishment of the wet side facilities. We listened very carefully to what you all told us last time. You picked up on 3 key areas. You expected a building of much greater sustainability. You wanted it to integrate into the landscape better. And you also felt that the building needed to be of a better civic status for the community and the people of Hertford. Therefore, what we've done is we've gone through, looked at those and retained the existing building plan because that worked really well. It gave us all the needs for the business plan, so we don't have any loss of amenity or quality of the sport and leisure facilities in this application. With the sustainability, we went through and we looked at not just providing them, but seeing how they combined in the whole facility. So for instance, we have a PV array across the roof, which is the photovoltaic cells. The rainwater runs off the roof, and we don't have any gutters or anything on there. That is all harvested, and that then feeds a living wall through a capillary action process. So there's the combination of all those sustainabilities, not just things being standalone. We have a living wall, as I've mentioned. We've looked at adding in electric vehicle recharging points, and we've even recycled some of the materials off the existing building. Now, all of this isn't just something that's subjective. We're actually achieving BREEAM Excellent as a standard for the building. You talked about the integration of the landscape. What we didn't want to do was have a building that encroached into the common. In fact, we were encouraged not to do that. But we wanted a building that did certainly merge with it. So what we've done is we've gone through and we've looked at how we form a circle around the building that forms the extent of our landscape. And within that, there are some elements of existing trees. There's other new elements that form that overall circle with the landscape. We've increased the amenity value by the cafe. Where the paths run through that landscape, we have rendezvous points for walkers, dog walkers, people who are using the park and the common now for outdoor fitness, much more since the pandemic. The pedestrian routes have been increased with the concourse at the front of the building because we've opened it up and moved that little storage area that created the pinch point coming up through to the entrance. The building was important in terms of quality as well. We now have this monopitch building with this glazed eye that looks out across the common, and that's the fundamental concept of the design. And that gives us all the vision inside and outside from the building for where people are using it. It's
I think your time is up, so I'm afraid I have to stop you. But thank you for your comments, much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so now is the moment for members who may have questions or comments. Councillor Beckett, very quick to put his hand up. I'll take you in batches as usual, but if we only have one comment or question, so be it. Carolyn Redfern and Ian Devonshire. So it's Beckett, Redfern and Devonshire in that order, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think I have to congratulate the officers and the design team on what is an absolutely amazingly improved design and building. I have to say I felt pretty guilty after the meeting where, sorry, my camera's just fallen down, after the meeting where we refused it last time. But I think we can see that the action was justified in what's before us today and something that we can be proud of going forward. The only comment I have for the officer, for Jill, is whether we can check that in Bream, it's a technical point, pole 5 is targeted, which is attenuation of building noise from the plant, because where that plant is at the front of the building, if it creates any further noise than is currently there and it's not attenuated, it'll affect people in the park quite dramatically. So I think that's one credit that they should be going for within the Bream strategy. But otherwise, I think it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Redfern.
Hello, thank you. I think this is 100% improvement on the previous design. It really is, it fits the bill. So thank you for that. The only tiny quibble I've got is about, I hate to see the trees cut down. And although we have condition 16 that says, I think it's on page 122, I can't get it now for the moment, but I just wondered if there are any more details of what the replacement trees, what and where replacement trees will be. And that's my only quibble. I mean, I realise that it has been, we've been told that the new trees will be smaller and more ornamental, but are we thinking of planting any trees that will grow much larger over the years?
Okay.
As part of those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Devonshire.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to support what the other two councillors just said. I think it's a very good design. I'm very in favour of the sustainability, the increased sustainability. There's only one slight niggle I've got in that is that there's only 2 electric vehicle charging points. And for the future of this building, and we're hoping this building is going to be there for what, 20, 30 years. I don't think 2 is enough, really. That's my only comment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Jill, if you'd like to respond to those points and you want to take on board the congratulations, enjoy the moment as well.
Thank you. I think that's down to the architects more than myself, but I'll take it. Yes, the noise levels, I don't know the technicalities of Bream, but we have got a condition suggested by our environmental health to ensure that noise attenuation is adequate, so there shouldn't be any adverse noise impacts from the development. With regard to the trees, yes, we never like to see loss of well-established trees. None of them, I don't believe, are actually the highest quality trees, but they are a feature within the landscape. Unfortunately, the red line around this site is quite tightly drawn. There's no space within the application site as identified for planting significantly larger trees. Obviously, there's space within the park generally, but that's not within the remit of this application. As to what exactly the trees are to be planted as part of this scheme, I haven't got the details of that at the moment. That is subject to a condition, and we will obviously run that through our landscape officer to ensure that we achieve a good quality and trees that will enhance the area. And finally, with regard to the electric vehicle charging points, yes, only 2 are shown here, but in this instance, we are not actually providing any additional parking spaces either at this point. So I think it would be difficult for us to require retrofitting of significant amount of charging points, which it's not part of this application to increase the parking generally. That's all I can say on that, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Jill. I've now got another round of questions. I've already got some hands, Ben. I'll come to you in a moment, though. So I've got Councillor Andrews, Councillor Ruffles, Councillor Kay, Councillor Kemp, in that order.
Thank you very much, Chairman. David Andrews here. Yeah, as has been mentioned, I think this totally justifies the position that was taken previously. This has come forward as a massively different and massively and hugely improved project. And we only have to go to typically 819 and 820 to see the changes that have been made to make it more appealing. It's always going to be big. It's always going to be in an open vista, but that's particularly good. I like the curves. There are no straight lines in nature. Curves are good. They help break things up. They help diffuse. I share the comment. I share the concerns around the electric vehicle parking. I think the town council mentioned it as well. I'm not precious at this stage about the specific number, but again, we get back to that old nugget of, can we at least make sure the cabling is there, so that as things come along in 2, 4, 5, 6 years time, the cabling is there, so we don't have to have a massive digging up to and that's a very, very inexpensive facility. The extra cycle facilities, again, good. Will there be charging facilities for electrical bicycles? Because they're becoming more and more popular by the day. I'd also like to see the EV parking as close to the building as possible. The 2 spaces that are shown on the plan are, I think the electric vehicle parking should come after disabled, so that there is another benefit for people who take the plunge and get an electric vehicle. So all in all, very pleased. Justifies the care and concern. I think our officer is being overly modest, but I do acknowledge the work that the architect has done. Just as a note for the future, as we go forward with these virtual meetings, could we consider and investigate the possibility of us being able to see those plans before the evening? Ordinarily, we would come in a half an hour beforehand and see them in the foyer. We don't have that opportunity at the moment. If they can be presented on screen, I suspect they can be put into a file and sent out to members of the DMC and other interested parties. So just a little aside, but I don't want that to take away from my comments, which are basically extremely positive. I think this is justifies the work that everybody's put into it. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ruffles.
Thank you, Chairman. With Councillor Crystal, this development is in our ward, Benjo ward, and so I particularly would want to reiterate what many other people have said already, but particularly to say from the Harford members' standpoint, how grateful we are for the courage shown by members of this committee who are not representing this town, because in the last meeting, the reservations were first aired by members from another quarter, and it saved us doing it in quite the same way, which was, in my terms, a really reassuring thing that other people have been looking at Harford closely and Harford's interest closely and spoke up for the town. If I could say, while I regret that the one good bit about the existing development is the bit that's going to be demolished, and that is a pity, but accepting that that's going to happen. Everything about the current application is an improvement on the one that we visited last time, and there seemed to be no negatives attached to it. There was nothing present at the last meeting that we looked at, which we've lost in this current iteration. So it's a really good, in my view, step forward. But if I could say, and I don't disagree with Councillor Carolyn Redfern at all about trees in the general, but I do a bit in this particular because for me, the most important thing, understanding that we're proud as a facility offering a council of the plans to make this facility for local people so much better than it is at the moment. But the real resisting factor is the openness of Hartham. And if I can remind people that, in fact, when the first open air pool came to Harford in modern times, the 1960s pool, there was a huge public debate about locating the pool on Hartham. And I think it's true to say the majority of townsfolk did not want it to be where it is today. Simon Ball was the favoured site. And that was because of the huge value that Harford people generally, and I don't mean people that use leisure centres, but the wider population place on the Hartham area itself. And that Hartham area's quality is the openness, the wide openness. And so any built development here actually detracts from that openness. And that's where I just do fall out slightly with Carolyn, because I don't think it needs bigger and more trees planted stepping across the openness of Hartham. I think what we have offered here, and I hope we're going to accept, is probably the best thing. But the whole of this development is so very much better, and I think it does read with the modern age well, because the way in which people use leisure centres today differs from the 1980s even, and certainly the 1960s. And this particular development, with the siting of the cafe area and studio quarter, actually facilitates our age as well as all of the other things that are so good about this application. So I, for one, welcome the civic lasting quality and character of the new development architecturally, and the green belt impact is as small as it is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ruffles. Now, Councillor Kay, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I also very much support this application. I think it'll be good to see a new gym, studio space, soft play area and cafe, and indeed an upgraded swimming pool, I understand. And also something being done with that light green corrugated metal roof as it exists at the moment. I think the living wall is an excellent proposal, and I like the timber-like finish as well. I do agree with Councillor Devonshire and Councillor Andrews, though, about the electric vehicle parking. In 9 years' time, there are not supposed to be any new petrol or diesel cars. So therefore, we've got 84 spaces for bicycles and 2 for electric cars. And I think people at the end of a working day, if they are driving to and from work, they will want a rapid charger to charge their car within an hour, hour and a half whilst they're in the swimming pool or in the gym. And I think if not the chargers themselves being put in place now, as Councillor Andrews suggested, at least the wiring ready for it to go ahead. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot more expensive in 5, 6, 7 years in order to add that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. I have some comments and one question. As with everybody else, I very much welcome the extension of the leisure facilities. As the building is situated in the green belt, although there's already an existing building there, we do have a responsibility as councillors that any extension should be a building in which we can feel some pride for the next 50 years. something that's visually attractive and sustainable, but also still gives value for money to make the best use of council taxpayers' funds. So I'm very pleased to see the new design, which incorporates curves and gentle slopes, which is much more in character with the parkland setting and the existing building than the original design proposal brought to us earlier in the year, which was more stark and angular. Very pleased also to see the solar panels, the air source heat pumps, the living wall to reduce solar gain, and the aim to reach BREEAM Excellence standard. All of those will substantially reduce carbon footprint, and they're thoroughly in line with the council's policy to work towards net zero carbon emissions. In fact, they're a very clear statement of our intention in wanting to do that. So I'd very much like to thank, as with everybody else, the council officers and the architects for their hard work over the last few months to achieve these very significant improvements. And it's good to see also that that's been reflected in positive responses to the consultation and virtually no objections. So I have one question, and it concerns the living wall. Past experience shows that these features need good upkeep so that they continue to remain attractive and effective in the long term. So I'd like to ask what funding measures are being put in place to ensure continued long-term maintenance? Is a capital sum being provided for this that will ensure that this isn't a burden on the future revenue budget? And also, what's the backup plan if, for any reason, the green wall is unsuccessful and has to be replaced? And I would also have added the same question as the other councillors regarding electric vehicle parking spaces, and I hope that even if not done immediately, that the council will look to adding more as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Now I know there's some more councillors with questions, but we'll just take those in the next round. So back to you then, Jill, please, for responses to those various comments, please.
Thank you. I think the main question is regarding putting in wiring for the future provision of electric vehicle charging points. I think it would be reasonable to potentially put a condition on to that effect, given that the car park is being redone. It seems logical to be able to put in some wiring at that time. I might just run that past David if I can, however.
Yes, do you want to come in right now, David, and comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think we could incorporate something into condition 11, which is the car park management plan. We have sought delegated authority to detail the conditions, as members will see in the recommendation. So I think you could leave us to address that in a revised wording of condition 11.
Thank you. If I might squeeze a comment in there, I also think that we should address the electric charging issue, the cabling issue. So whatever we can do to make this meet the needs that are quite imminent, as Councillor Kay says, it's only 9 years until we're all supposed to be buying at least new electric cars. So if we can do something in that context, it would be very good news, I think. I'm not sure if you have more comments on those points made by the councillors there, Jill, but just to let you round off if you do.
Sorry, yes, there was a query about the living wall and future of it. We do have a condition regarding landscape management, so there needs to be a landscape and environmental management plan put in place to show how it will be upkept for the future. And in terms of if everything goes horribly wrong or in the future it's no longer wanted to keep the living wall going, not that I think it'll be an issue, but if that did happen, I am told that it is quite simple to replace with cladding. It's not a major or overly costly operation to do that. However, as I say, the condition is there to ensure that the living wall is maintained, same as any other landscaping scheme would be.
Thank you very much. Okay, now I've got 3 more councillors who've made contact. It's Tim Page, Ben Crystal and Ruth Buckmaster in that order, please. So Tim, Councillor Page. I think that's it, Tim. I think you've unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I always have trouble unmuting. Yeah, well, I'm very supportive of this new application. It's, as other councillors have said, a great improvement. But I've got just three issues really to bring up. First of all, on the electric chargers, the highways and parking section of the report points to the car park bringing in more restrictions to enable those who are taking advantage of facilities at Hartham to use the car park rather than other parkers. I assume that they would be there for the exercise on a very limited time basis, and therefore it would seem sensible to me on car park on electric chargers to have rapid chargers as a condition, because otherwise we might be spending money where we're not getting full value from the parking charges provided. Second point I want to raise is that I'm very pleased that the conservation and urban design advice has been acknowledged. It is in the case file, but it wasn't so much in the report. And thirdly, and this is a bit of a negative, and I think the only negative that's come up tonight, the landscape advisor was pretty stark in his opposition to the proposed gabion seats, which he stated are substandard and inappropriate to the location. Now, reading the report, I can see the mitigation of high quality timber, perhaps turning that opinion round on the quality, but I can't see how the inappropriateness identified by the landscape officer has been addressed.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Councillor Crystal.
Thanks, Chairman. I've got a few little minor things. It is a real pleasure to be able to come and heap praise on officers today. So thank you again. This is a really great building. Looks really well executed. It's a bit always demoralising to be moaning, and but this is really great. So thank you. A few little minor things. Again, electric chargers. Yeah, I agree with other comments. You know, we've only got a few more years left of internal combustion engines, whether we like it or not, and I just feel like we should be helping people charge vehicles, especially as this is such a it's going to be such an iconic building in terms of its sustainability, and so it would seem rather niggling, if you like, to have a car park then packed with petrol engines. And on that topic, I wonder if generally it would be possible to consider, maybe not here, but maybe in the long term, engaging with social enterprises that offer to install electric chargers in spaces, and then they recoup their costs through a slightly increased cost of charging. That would be another way to approach putting in chargers on council spaces without having an outlay of cost. So that's just a suggestion. I appreciate the landscape and ecology management plan hasn't been done, but I just wanted to confirm that there would be bird boxes, bat boxes, and swift boxes on the building. That the original plans showed up a meadow, a grass meadow in the car park, and I wondered if this has been, if it's not included in this design, whether it could be reinstated, because I think that was a really lovely idea, particularly as there's a large area in the centre of the car park with a grassy bank, which would seem to be ideal. Lastly, to the trees, and I do agree with Carolyn on this, that the trees, it's great that there are more trees being planted than the ones that we've lost, but the ones being planted are ornamental, small growing species, as I understand it, and you can't compare the value to wildlife of those with fully mature 25-metre high willow and hornbeam. And so I appreciate there's no more space on this site, but I do urge officers to try and influence their colleagues in parks to maybe think about putting some willow, some big willow, back in on the other side of the park by the river, because they would not be blocking the views in that case. I think it's really important that we don't lose those natural large growing species. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. And in this round, lastly, Ruth Buckmaster, please, Ruth.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to reiterate what all the other councillors said, and really praise the officers for a much improved application, especially on the sustainability side. And I think it actually just justifies what the previous DMC reticence of the previous application, and why we were not happy with it, because this come back with such a better plans. I have one little concern, very minor really, that came up from the site visit we had. On the north side of the building with the glass wall, there's going to be a gazebo area for the cafe. I noticed this was next to an existing, I don't know whether it's air conditioning or a plant or what it is, but obviously there is machinery there. And at the moment it has just quite a light metal fence. Is this going to be screened off in a better manner to make it more pleasant for the people sitting in the outside cafe area?
Thank you very much, Ruth. Now, I'm just letting David Andrews know that I know he's in the queue to speak, but we'll let Jill respond first and then we'll come back to you, David.
Thank you. Just trying to work out what the questions were and all of that. The gabion features. Yes, the landscape officer was a little scathing about those, but I think they're a feature, and the conservation officer is more than happy with those in terms of design and how they fit in the conservation area. I don't believe that the landscape officer understood that they were to be seating with a timber finish on the top when he made those comments. And the gabions are part of the sustainability feature of the scheme, in that they're reusing the bricks from the extension that's being demolished. So I think they will be an important part of the design overall. The landscaping, yes, the condition that we've put on there, it requires that there will be a net increase in biodiversity. So whilst we're losing some trees, there is an ecological enhancement. And yes, of course, we're always trying to encourage our colleagues to plant more trees in the wider park area. and we can do that. But obviously, as I've explained, it's outside of the actual application site, so we can't require them as part of this. We can certainly look at, as part of the conditions on landscaping and ecology, to seek to ensure that we do have a meadow area as was previously shown. Yeah, the area next to the gazebo where the seating area is proposed, it is proposed to be screened off. One of the plans that's submitted does show more of a landscape screen to make that more of a pleasant area for sitting out. Thank you.
Can I just come back on one point, which I think was made by Councillor Page, Jill?
Yep.
Tim was emphasising rapid chargers. And there is clearly a mood in the conversation, isn't there? Recharging, electrical charging, electrical cars, electrical bikes. Can you or David, who's just put his hand up, just comment on Tim's rapid charging point, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Most are those that you see in car parks, such as those on in motorway serviced areas, for instance. They actually charge faster now than the current capability of the batteries within cars to charge. So largely technically the restriction is the car, not the charger. Most of the chargers are rapid charging now, possibly with the exception of domestic chargers, which are a variety of speeds. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm just looking at Tim. Is that okay for you, Tim?
Yeah, mostly okay. I'm not technically knowledgeable on car chargers, but the point I'm trying to make is that we don't want to put car chargers in there which are going to be pretty useless. We want them to serve a purpose, and with these restrictions coming in on the car park, presumably the time spent in the car park will be less than it is currently. There will be a need for rapid charging if there is a need for charging at all.
I think that you've made that point well. I think, Tim, can I just leave with the officers that is Tim's point, which is quite easy to see, very sensible point. Okay, I've got one remaining member in the queue, David Andrews. So I'll call upon David Andrews, please. And Tony Stoney and Devonshire have just put their hands up. So you squeeze in as well in that order. So it's Andrews, Stowe and Devonshire, please.
Thank you, Chairman. With the gabions, I like the idea. I'm not precious about the brick, although there is a certain sense to it. They could equally be topped up with our local stone, which of course is chalk. But notwithstanding the brick, which I'm not going to particularly query, they themselves, of course, will provide all sorts of support for flora and fauna and wee beasties. So that's an important part of sustainability as well. On the car parks, could I just ask officers to reflect?
David, can I just interrupt you to say that you're very faint? If you've got a mouth...
Sorry. Okay. Do you want me to repeat the first one?
I think probably the best. Yeah. Thanks.
Sorry. Do you want me to repeat the first one?
Just briefly. Yeah. Yeah. Please.
Yeah. Okay. On the gabions, I'm not precious about brick, although I can understand the logic behind it. But I think the gabions themselves lend something to it. If it weren't brick, we'd probably go to the local stone, which is chalk, broken up to a suitable size. But not only will they supply a nice seating area, in my view, but also there's various wee beasties and flora and fauna that will get attracted to them, and they will become part of the sustainability system as well. But on the question of car parking, could officers just reflect and not necessarily comment now, but at the moment in that area, we have two different parking regimes. There's the Sainsbury's car park, where you pay your money and you get your money back if you go to Sainsbury's. And then there's the East Herts District Council car park, where you pay but you don't get your money back. And there's the car park around the existing facility at Hartham Common, where you don't pay. So we don't want that to become an attractive option as things get tighter. So we need to incorporate that car park into one of the regimes, I would suggest. And I think the Sainsbury's approach of you pay for it, but you get your money back if you go to reception might hold some promise. On the question of car chargers, again, I'm not precious about that, because let's face it, most of the people that are going to be using this facility will live within 15 or 20 miles, I would suggest, at most. And therefore, if they pop in and their car happens to be on its last gasp as far as the charge is concerned, and they go and have a swim and a coffee, an hour later when they come out, they've got more than enough to get home and plug into their system at home. So I'm not overly concerned about that, but I mean, Tim is absolutely right to raise it. But I don't see it as in the same league as the motorway service station, where you need to recharge the whole damn thing in about 45 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay. I'm going to take Tony Stowe next, please, Tony.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of comments, really. The first one being, I don't think I've ever been on a DMC committee before where all our members are congratulating the team, the architect, the officers, on such an improved cream on the one that we deferred a few months ago. But that's refreshing. And the other point I'd make about the bricks and the gabions, I mean, bear in mind that part of the process would be it's via the lorries taking it away from site. So that's part of the sustainability, because it's the lorry miles on the road that also we worry about when they move material from site. So that's quite a big thing. That's all I want to say, really, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. I may have lost the precise order now, chaps, but just bear with me. So Ian Devonshire, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'm going to sound like a broken record now, because I'm going to mention the same thing again. I'm just going to ask David, really, because David said he could put in point 11 that you're going to put cabling in. You're going to add cabling into point 11. Could we not just add another couple of EV spaces into point 11 as well? That's just a question. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Next, Ian Kemp.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to say that the discussion reminds me of a couple of key comments that came up when we first deferred this application a few months ago. Two concerns that came up. One was saying about the need to have trees to screen the building, and then the question, why do we want a building that actually needs to be screened? And the second comment that had come up was, is this really the best that we can do? So I think it's really good to look at the new building and to say, yes, this really does look the best that we can do. It's something that we can be pleased with and proud of, and it's a building that's good to look at and doesn't need screening.
Thank you, Ian. And in this round, possibly to finish the evening, Councillor Kay.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, just to clarify on the electric car chargers, you have a domestic charger, a 7 kilowatt one at home, and that's fine for a hotel where people are staying overnight, because it takes about 7.5 hours to charge a car, or a conference centre where you're there all day. But obviously people are not going to be at the leisure centre for that length of time, and that's why the rapid chargers, which charge in an hour or an hour and a half, are more appropriate. And we just wanted to, clarify that the wiring will be put in place in order to have that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. David, I see your hands up. I'm going to squeeze in one more personal comment from me, which is something which I don't think has been touched on so far. When we met for the site visit, we met by the bicycle racks. And of course, looking at the building behind us, if you're looking at the building behind us is I think it's the Folly Island allotments. Anyway, my point is it's open. And I thought there was some suggestion that the site might be screened off in some way. where at the moment there is not fencing. And a very personal comment, I wasn't so sure I quite like the sound of putting fencing into that particular spot. Seemed to me it might affect the sense of openness. So you can come back to that once David's commented on the other comments, Jill, please. David.
Thank you, Chairman. I think, I mean, we've heard the comments on car charging, and we have noted them. I think all that I can say at this stage is we will take that forward and discuss it with the council as applicant, because as Jill rightly pointed out, the actual car park wasn't intended to be altered except in layout as part of this application, so it rather sits outside of the application. So I think what we can say is that we'll do what we can, and we will discuss it with the council as applicants and see what we can come up with.
Thank you very much, David. And then Jill, I think it's just my last comment about what we might call fencing at the front.
Yeah, the only, it's not fencing, it's timber screening, which is to be around the substation and the air source heat pump at the front. The presentation that I showed had an illustration of what that will look like. It's a relatively limited area, and there's no intention to screen off the whole of the site from the front.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, all right. Well, I'd like to echo somebody's comments. Isn't it a pleasure to deal with an application where I think every member has spoken, and I believe every member has spoken positively. But that doesn't mean to say that we can avoid having a vote. So I'm looking for a proposer, please.
I would happily propose this, that we accept the recommendation, Chairman. Okay, you've just come across some hands going up on the screen there, David. Did you say that you're happy to propose? Indeed, I am. In that case, the first hand I saw go up was from Ruth Buckmaster. There were other hands, and I appreciate that a lot, but I can only take them at the speed I see them. So mine was the only one in blue on the screen, Chairman. Yes, okay, all right. So we have a proposer and a seconder. Just to be formal and remind us, so we're now about to vote on this application, which is 320-1814 FUL, demolition of existing extension to leisure centre and construction of new two-storey extension incorporating exercise studios, gym, soft play area and cafe with associated landscaping, rearrangement of car park area, cycle parking and ancillary external plant, provision of 120 square metres temporary studio at Hartham Leisure Centre, Hartham Lane, Hertford.
And Chairman, that with the amended conditions as well, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's thank you, Peter. That's taken on board. So all those in favour, please show hands.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And also David Andrews can indicate what he's doing. I have done on the screen. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous.
You happy, Peter? Yeah, okay. Well, it's academic, but just to be formal, there shouldn't be any, but are there any votes against? That would be mathematically challenging, and it'd be even more mathematically challenging if there are any abstentions. No, okay. So I'm very pleased to say that this application has been approved unanimously by this committee, and with apologies for the repetition, but again, just to be formal. So we have just agreed to grant permission in respect of application 320-1814 FUL, which is for the demolition of existing extension to leisure centre and construction of new two-storey extension incorporating exercise studios, gym, soft play area and cafe with associated landscaping, rearrangement of car park, cycle parking and ancillary external plant, provision of 120 square metres temporary studio at Hartham Leisure Centre, Hartham Lane, Hertford. And having had that very positive discussion and approving that application unanimously, I now would like to say how proud I am of this committee for what we've done here. Some months ago, we were not happy with the application that came forward to us. And of course, at that time, we were mindful that the applicant is or was East Herts District Council. And we sit here as a committee of East Herts District Council, but we were not happy with it and we deferred it. And it's come back to us now. It is vastly improved. And I think this committee should give itself a pat on the back for having that independence of mind. It's exactly what this committee should be doing. And I hope those members of the public watching will see that this is an independent committee, albeit sitting within the framework of East Herts District Council. So many congratulations to all the members. And I'd also like to congratulate, as has been done several times already, but when congratulations are around, let's not stint. I'd like to congratulate the officers for all the work that they've done. And I think, as some members have acknowledged as well, I think we should congratulate the architects for having the humility to go back to the drawing board and acknowledge that perhaps what they came up with the first time around wasn't the best it could have been, and to present us now with a much improved scheme. So really a very, very positive application item this evening. Thank you all very much indeed.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. Okay, so now to come back to the agenda, we have item 6, which is items for reporting and noting. They begin at page 63 of the pack. This item is no more than it says, items for reporting and noting. So I take it that we have noted all those items.
Noted, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And I'm seeing people nodding, that's absolutely sufficient. Next item is item 7, urgent business. I've only got one item of end of agenda business, but I'm firstly going to look at officers to see if there's anything they wish me to raise at this stage. No? In that case, the only item of end of agenda business, which obviously is extremely important, and I think we can say this now that we've just tipped into December, and this will be our last meeting of this committee this calendar year. I think we are allowed to say that we wish each other a very happy Christmas and prosperous New Year. It's been a very tough year for many, many people in our district. People have shown great fortitude. Fingers crossed next year will be better and back to something like normal. But anyway, for now.
Yeah. Well done, Chairman. Well said, Chairman.
Thank you all very much. I hope you all have a very good Christmas. And if Peter Mannings gets his calendar appointments out properly, no doubt we'll all convene again in 2021. So with that, bye-bye and happy Christmas to you. Bye.